Hi YouTube, how are you doing? I'm doing pretty good. I feel great today. I got my exercises done, fed the kitties outside, got some wood in, and I'm not gonna probably do a whole bunch more today, maybe, but I could have used more sleep, so I'm gonna try and get in bed a little earlier tonight than I did last night. I was watching some movie. I don't know what it was. I fell asleep. I'm not gonna. It must have been boring because it didn't keep me awake. So, but right before, um, see, this is my instincts and my intuition. The wind was super bad last night, and the power went out for about few hours. So I knew instinctively, and this is how I'm learning, and I've been really examining this lately because some implications made towards a couple people I love have sort of like an altercation, and they're both a little shady, but to be able to decipher and determine what is right or wrong within the situation, I need to use my instincts and go with that. And so that's where I'm at with all that. Some of you kind of know what I'm talking about. If not, I apologize. But um, anyway, I knew Doug had cooked some eggs, and we had had steak and salad the night before, half of our steak, and saved half for last night. So he's cooking his on the wood stove. There's a spot to cook stuff. And we have a wood cook stove too, like an oven, you know, for emergency. I've baked in it and stuff, but yeah, it's just there in case we need it. So like last night when other people weren't able to use their electric or gas stoves because um they're ignited, unless it's an ancient one where like a gas stove where you light it with the match, but the rest of them, they're all activated by electronics, so they couldn't microwave anything, they couldn't heat anything up. um most of my neighbors um have provisions for hard times. We live out in the country, so um, and burn wood and gas. So, but when the electric goes out, you don't have even the propane LP or natural gas isn't going to burn because you have to have the electronic fan to blow that out of your heater to blow around your home. So that's not going to work either. So if you're not prepared, you're not going to have heat or food, nothing. So, but anyway, just when he was cooking his stuff and I had mine cold, I put it on a sandwich, um, my steak, and a little piece. I made a sandwich out of it, and just when he was done cooking his stuff, I knew the minute he got done that the power was going to come back on. That, I mean, it didn't have to. There's no reason why I should have felt like that. But that was my intuition and my instincts. And guess what? Yeah, just about as soon as he got done cooking his stuff and eating it, the power came back on. I was okay because I prefer a lot of times cold food, um, opposed to hot stuff. Even if it's stuff that's typically hot, I don't mind it if it gets cold, like cold coffee or whatever. So, but yeah, those are my instincts and my intuition. And like I say, um, it could have been out. There's times the power has been out all night long or a day or two or whatever. And I just kind of know Well, this is one of these times where I just kind of knew, and that's how I go with my instincts when somebody's shady. Um, Even though I just kind of know, and that's my topic today is the difference between, do you lower your standards for somebody that is walking on the shady side of the situation, and they've exhibited that to you, uh, lowering your standards or lowering your expectations out of that person. So there's a big difference whether or not we lower ourselves to meet them at their level, or we lower our expectations of that person that doesn't want to rise to the occasion, so that you can still have somewhat of a relationship with people like that, but you still know that they're not going to rise to the occasion. So being friends with somebody or related to somebody like that, you learn to lower your expectations. I mean, you hope that they'll um, gather more integrity about themselves, but sometimes it might not. It might not even be emotionally possible for people that play on their emotional damage from their childhood and use that as a tool to control and manipulate other people. So when you see that in people, you don't lower your standards, but you do your expectations, and that's what's been on my mind, you know. So yeah, there was it was on Saturday Night Live in the 90s. There was a skit, and the woman was rather chubby, and the guy looked like a total dork. Um, they just they suited each other, but the music would come on, and it would go lowered expectations instead of like there was a oh some kind of movie or something like that that was I don't know if it was about uh something about expectations or oh, I guess I could look it up. Some of you might know, but there was a movie out there. It wasn't about lowering our standards. It was about um two people of substance getting together and creating something together, you know. So I don't know why I just buzzed on a movie that I love it. I don't know if you've seen it. It's Griffin and Phoenix, or the other way around, Phoenix and Griffin. Good movie. I won't give away the plot if you go to watch it. It's a sad movie, but it's a good one. And it is I wouldn't even call it, like, it's sort of a romance, but it's more understanding and a friendship out of these people. And I just remember it was a really good show. Phoenix and Griffin, I think, is what it's called. So yeah. So I've just been thinking on. I've been kind of mentally charting through my days, my instincts, like even using Doug to gauge it. Like, what do I think he's going to do? Not by what he normally does, because he hasn't been doing things typically that he would typically do. Um, his back started really hurting and he couldn't get into the chiropractor. So that kind of threw a wrench in a lot of what he usually do through the day. So um, he was sort of winging it, and so was I on what I would expect him to do versus what he actually did. I mean, just little things like that I've been using to test my intuitions. Yeah. And and instincts and going from in the past. I never really was tricked by anybody. There's times in my life where I did lower my standards. I was very young. No excuse. I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying, um, we are the company we keep. And there was a time in my life, I'm still like this, but where I started weeding people out of my life that didn't meet my standards, you know. And if I couldn't um, shake them physically, like your kids or whatever, I limit my time around people, even if I'm related to them and they don't live up to my standards. I mean, sure, nobody's perfect, but let's just put it this way: if you're uh, all in, all out, I don't want nothing to do with you. Why would I? If bitch is your middle name and that's the way you operate, why would I want to be around that? You know, I'm just saying. Um, whether we're related to people or not. I mean, if we're not, makes a lot easier to limit your time around people. Let's say, like, if you have a friend that you genuinely like some things about them, but then there's other things about them that you can't tolerate, you know, to decide whether or not you even want to be around people like that. You know, it's like, for instance, I know this family. Um, there was three kids, a girl and two boys that I met when I was 15, and we've known each other since from then until now. And there's times I went to their house and it was okay if it was like when their mom and dad was alive, then things were a little different. When they were left to their own devices, their life fell apart. And it had a lot to do with the people that they had around them in their lives and the things they chose to do in their life and that type of thing. So I had to limit, even though I loved them people, I had to limit my time around them because of the company they kept. And a lot of times they kind of looked down on me. They never say it, but you know, the feeling was there because I wouldn't join in the reindeer games and lower my expectations and my standards to fit into their crowd, you know? So, and it is a big deal. So you ask yourself, is it better to be lonely or is it better to have things happen in your life and around you and to you that are unnecessary if you're not in the wrong situations, you know? So it's like, yeah. Anyway, there was a place they had river property, quite a bit of property, and used to have horses, and they're actually my one friend, the boy, the oldest boy, actually farmed with his grandfather and father using horses, even right up into the 70s, you know, which is sort of interesting. And they had a tractor and other things too, but um, yeah. But they weren't just farmers. Right down the road from them, there was a place called, or still is, I don't know if it's open anymore, a place called the River Diner. And it wasn't just a diner, it was like if you wanted to get high and you were 15, you go to the River Diner and there'd be bonfires and people coming in and out of there. And even when I was really young, um, my dad stopped there with me, and the guy behind the bar accused my dad of wanting to get with his wife and pulled a gun on him. And I was in a mood. I had ran away and I went there and I was going to confront this guy who had pulled the gun. He scared the shit out of me when I was a little kid, and I was going back to seek revenge. Long story. But it's a biker bar. It's not some place you really should take a kid, you know. But my dad, he might even knew the people, quite well, because he did things like, oh, he played a lot of poker, um, hung around with his Freemason and Shriner buddies and whatever. But he also, a lot of them actually had bikes and would stop in the diner. There was one of their stops, so yeah. Talk about birds of a feather. You wouldn't look at a Freemason and think that they're hanging around in a biker bar, or a Jesuit or somebody like Trump, would you expect? Yeah, you wouldn't, but there they were, all them people, you know, like that, mixed in with what I would call the riffraff, uh, which depends on the biker group too, because there's ones that were called the Grim Reapers, the Reapers, or Beepers, Beamers, a lot of people call them. Um, those are wicked, were very wicked, and I I grew up around a chapter of the Hells Angels that were like, if you touched a kid, um, you'd get hurt. Like this cop that tried to um, do things to me, he got hurt for his wicked ways. I mean, I didn't ask nobody to do anything, and I didn't know it was going to happen, but it did. But the integrity of their way of doing things, was like, yeah, they took a lot of the local justice into their own hands, and that's where they got like a really bad reputation of being hellacious when they actually were some of the nicest people I ever met, you know. My one friends, they'd go on like a road trip, and I'd take care of their German shepherds for them, make some money when they got back, or usually I'd get like cigarettes and different things before they even left. And then when they got back, I'd get some cash, for taking care of their animals and stuff. So and very nice people. And this one they called Animal, who was like in charge of everything around a little town called Bethel by St. Francis, Minnesota, north of the cities. Um, I walked into this house one day, and it was connected to, I was really good friends with a woman that owned a teen center. And so the teen center was in front of this apartments that were all a part of this same house. And I walked in there one time, and this big dude, guns on the table and shit, and he's like, "What are you doing in here?" All mean at me and shit. And I started talking to him, and um, I just really did not want to go home. I went in the kitchen, I started doing his dishes, and he goes, "What do you think you're doing?" I said, "What does it look like?" You know, and he's like, "Do what you want," he says to me. Well, after that, I could go there if I needed some cigarettes or whatever, and I'd get them all the time. So I started making friends with all the Hells Angels around there. They thought I was funny because I had this black horse, little white dot on her head. Oh, she was quick. And I'd either run her or I'd ride a friend's horse just to give him some exercise. My horse's name was Spade. God, she was beautiful and fast. But so was a friend of mine, Marty, a little bit older. Sometimes I get a ride home on his bike so I could get home from school sooner, depending on what he was doing, because he had a girlfriend too. So if him and his girlfriend weren't doing something, I would be able to get a ride home from him. They were a few years older, but sometimes I'd go grab his horse, Bullet, and run him across. When the kids weren't in the schoolyard, it was the perfect flat area to run your horse. So, but they thought it was funny that I was running my horse down Main Street. The cops stopped me and told me not to run my horse down Main Street anymore. So next time I walked her down, just defiant. He was a piece of crud, this dude, that ended up getting his back broke because he tried to take me out on a dirt road. I had a choice: go out there with him, go back to an abusive household, or go to jail. I went to adult jail. I thought, oh, you're going to threaten me? And then he takes me up to the people that were abusing me, and she's standing there and she's like, "You'd rather go to jail than here with your family?" I looked at her because she was even acting stupid in front of this cop who had just been acting stupid to me. So the hatred factor for both of them at that moment was off the charts. you know. Oh, anyway. Then I got put in a reform school for a while. They didn't know what to do with me, and I broke out of there. So, yeah, I took all this. They forgot to check my pockets. I had a little um, penknife, and I dug all this gooey stuff out of the windows. I gave myself a tattoo in there. I dug gooey stuff. Well, I actually was finishing it. I have a heart, um, and two little ones that used to be letters, one on each of my knees. So, but anyway, I was finishing my heart one, and I decided to start digging this gooey stuff out of this great big pane of glass. It was like 6 foot by 4 foot, and it was set into blocks in the wall. And when it hit the ground, and it was really early in the morning, I didn't sleep all night. I just um, got that prepared and left a little bit, and then must have been about 4 o'clock in the morning, I knocked that thing out of there. Hit the ground just flat, didn't break. Must have been safety glass, really thick stuff. And I got out of there. So, oh, they got me again, but yeah. I didn't do anything wrong to anybody at any time. All I was doing was running away, you know. And I just couldn't get people to understand why I was running away. Like that is a criminal offense to get out of an abusive situation, you know. So I didn't feel like a criminal, and I felt it was so unjust. I fucking hated everybody, any adult I came in contact with at that point back then, till I ran into one counselor, one good woman, my probation officer, and I was able to explain to her just a smidgen of some of the stuff that happened because they were going to chain me up where I grew up. My dad was making shackles for my legs, and I jumped out of my bedroom window. So, second story. That wasn't a big deal because I had done 30-foot jumps, jumping buildings in the city, so that wasn't shit. But he thought he was going to chain me up. Really? He's going to chain me to my bed. Without taking the bed apart, you couldn't get out of there. But if he had chained me up, I just would have took the bed apart and carried the part of it with the chains out the door. That wouldn't have been very cool for them. Because they moved me out in the country trying to seclude me, um, and rid themselves of some of the embarrassment that I was putting them through, you know. And I hadn't always been an embarrassment, don't get me wrong. Right before that, I had taken modeling classes and did some modeling and for some catalog. And, I had achievements of different groups and things that I was doing. And I had my own job and different things in my life. I kept busy, made my own money and that type of thing. So, no, I wasn't an embarrassment to them until I got sick of their shit. But um, I had, by instruction of what called herself my mother, stripped me down and beat me with a belt. She had my dad do that. That was the last fucking straw with those people. After that, I just started running and I didn't stop till I got out of there. And then I was able to take them to court and get myself emancipated. And that was just one thing. But, so it wasn't like I was a disobedient child for no reason, or that I was just out in the world trying to harm other people or anything like that. Even the time I ran away, I was staying with a woman that had a lot of kids. Her husband had just died, and I was helping her with her kids just in order to stay there and working at a trucking farm. And then I was able to get my own little apartment with my friend Barb, and even my adopted mother would come and she'd see how I was doing. She worked for the school district, which I later did in decades after that. But she would bring me things that were like left over from the kitchen, trying to get back into my life. Barb was just thrilled. She's like, and I'm like, I don't want nothing from do what you want. And um, she's like, what kind of, my adopted mom, what kind of way is that to talk? I said, the way I'm going to talk to you if you keep bothering me. I moved here not because I'm close to you, because I can't get any further right now, you know. So that was my beginning of, and that was before I got emancipated. So she actually had some amount of control over me. That was at 15 still, you know. So still trying to just make my way in the world and not have the mentally retarded, psychopathic, narcissistic, they call themselves elite. Can you fucking imagine? They call themselves elite. Wow. So yeah. Just a little bit, if some of you are kind of newer here. Um, this is like my rebellious nature towards the abusive nature of the narcissistic society we live in, and how people excuse that in each other and work together towards ones that won't lower their standards for anybody or even make excuses for ourselves, because I've lowered my standards and expectations just to have friends in this world, and I'm not fucking doing it anymore. And I wouldn't recommend anybody do it. If you have high hopes for yourself and that's who you are inside, don't let anybody trample on that. They can try and lower you. They can piss you off and poke you and push you until you can't stand anymore. And when you snap, they deserve everything that's coming out of you. That's where I'm at. So, well, I'm going to get this uploaded. I love you all. I appreciate you joining me. Have a really good night or day wherever you're at. Peace and love from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.